The four AP officers suspected of the murder put on spirited attempts to clear themselves in the 2016 brutal killings. Willie Kimani, who was a lawyer working with International Justice Mission, was brutally murdered alongside his client Josephat Mwenda and taxi driver Joseph Mweruri on June 23rd. They were abducted as they left Mavoko Law Courts, and their bodies were later recovered a week later at Oldonyo Sabuk River. So until that point, the defense, the lawyers will have their submissions deposited to the court on January 17th. And finally in sports, Africa Cup of Nations still on. That's according to the Motsepe, says that next month's Cup of Nations will be quote-unquote exceptional. The president of the Confederation of African Football, Patrice Motsepe, has reiterated that the delayed Africa Cup of Nations will go on as planned. Motsepe was speaking with less than 3 weeks until the tournament kicks off at the Yaounde's Olembe Stadium, which will host the opening match on January 9th. So we have got some action coming up in January. There is a youngster, 11-year-old girl, who is making moves in athletics, and she's been nominated for the most promising girl accolade at the 2021 Sports Personality of the Year Awards, scheduled to take place on January 19th at Bukungu Stadium in Kakamega. You can imagine the kind of future that young lady has, 11 years old.
Competency based?
Yes.
All right.
KBC.
Let me bring you to the Daily Nation, and we first start with this particular story here concerning this gentleman by the name Wilberforce Saenye Murunga. So 4 years ago, he chose Irene Mateko Haoya as his wife, all right? And they expected to have a happy marriage, as with any couple. So to seal the marriage, as per the Bukusu customary law, Mr. Murunga paid 50,000 Kenya shillings, 3 Ayrshire heifers, 1 cross Ayrshire bullock, 1 she-goat, a pair of gumboots, and a hat as bride price.
Kofia?
Yes. That was 4 years ago when they got married at their Bungoma home. And to receive all this was his mother-in-law, Miss Florence Hausa, and her firstborn son as the representative for the father. And representatives of the family also appended their signatures to the bride price payment agreement, acknowledging that they had received it. So their marriage started to hit the rocks a year and a half later, when his wife started deserting their matrimonial home. And according to Murunga, he had traveled to the States to further his studies, but had to cut short his education to return home when his wife told him to come back home so that they can have children. And yet he was in school, he was sending money home, but he decided, by the way, kabibi amesema wacha niende nyumbani tupate watoto, because they do not have any biological children together. However, Miss Irene has 3 children from previous relationships. All right. So he says, I lived with my ex-wife for about a year and 6 months until she started deserting her matrimonial home, and she eventually packed her belongings and left home. So he decided to file for a divorce at a magistrate court in Kitale, and the marriage was finally dissolved on the 12th of October this year. So he has now moved to court seeking a refund of the bride price from his mother-in-law and the son, and they want both of them to be compelled to return the cash, the animals, the gumboots, and the hat, and also demanding interests on the cash and property that they have accrued over the past 4 years since he paid them. He claims he was defrauded to part with his hard-earned money by the defendants and their daughter. And he wants the court to hear and determine the matter with the cost of suit upon the defendants. So the cost of the whole process will also be upon them. And he also wants any other relief measures that the court may deem fit to be granted unto him. The matter is before the Kitale Chief Magistrate, Julius Ngarngara.
Let me jump in.
na ikuje na interest.
Let me jump in. You see, okay, just as Victor had mentioned earlier, it's actually let me say, it's just like African. You know, you cannot be married twice because you cannot be paid for the bride price twice. So if you decide that you want to dissolve, divorce, separate, you do not want to do this anymore, and you had done the traditional and the bride price was paid, it's like a natural sense for the family of the lady, even without the man having to ask for, because if this lady wants to get married again, it's just natural for your family to return that bride price back. At least also because, again, based on our African setup, we always tend to believe that inakufungulia njia to some extent, at least isikufungie, because again, you cannot be having this bride price that person X paid and then you dissolve, and then person Y is coming to pay bride price when the other one is still there. But then again, looking at this story, this man looks like a bitter man. Why would you be asking for interest of what you gave? You gave 50,000. Now you want interest from
It's
what
just
they
business. And then a market rates.
The man is just bitter. This is just more than actually wanting that bride price back. There's more than meets the eye. There's more to this story than wanting the cows and whatever that he gave, the hats, the money, it's just more than that.
Yeah.
There's something more to that story.
But you know, there are also some tribes where once you've had your traditional wedding, your rasha, you can't have it again.
Yes.
Regardless of whether that marriage that you have entered in is dissolved, you cannot have it again.
What if they return the
even
bride
if
price?
they do so, it is only done once.
So what happens if you decide to
Otherwise,
marry? Okay, because you have to pay bride price. Bride price is a sign of sealing that covenant.
and actually that is what marriage is.
Yes.
It's that.
Traditionally, you
yes.
can't have. I'm using the term Rorashio because that is where I come from. I just want to refer it to.
Yes.
But you cannot have multiple Rorashios.
Is this part of what makes, also a good number of women to stay in what we call those toxic, violent relationships and marriages? Because, hata nikienda siwezi enda tena.
Yeah. So.
But Vic, do you think this guy is justified to ask for all these things that he paid back?
One. I'm not so much where from, is it Bukusu?
Just thinking as a man.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Ideally, when you separate, there is that aspect of you clear the air. Wazee wanakaa chini, muna agree, how do we solve this issue? But mpaka unataka kofia mzee alishavaa kofia, ameenda kwa baraza and all that. How are you going to quantify?
The gumboots.
The gumboots and what have you. There are certain things like, for example, the cows, all right? You can agree with the wazes on how that thing is handled, but it has to be made in such a way, and you sign that exactly you have divorced, you've settled the issue. So actually you can go your way, the lady can go somewhere else and get married, and the man can also get married. But it has to be recorded by the wazee, and now that he's gone to court, the court must also get that proof that you have completely divorced and you're now free people. But 50,000 kofia, walking stick, gumboots.
Mbuzi na ng'ombe.
Mbuzi na ng'ombe inaweza kuwa sawa.
Ng'ombe 4, mbuzi moja.
Because that's the part of the dowry.
Yeah.
Yes, that's part of the dowry. But kofia, those are just gifts. Mzee chukua kofia.
Hata pengine kofia ilishararuka, hata haiko.
Kofia inakuanga symbolic, and also the walking stick.
Yes. You just let some you let go. Some you let go.
Well, the man may be justified going by our African traditional setup, but he's being petty now.
It doesn't matter whether you are 90. With marriage, it's a tricky affair. In fact, before man, God, and law, it's a tricky thing, because even the Bible protects marriages, not relationship, boyfriend, girlfriend. That's what the law protects. So in some situations, for example, where I come from, if you get into a relationship with someone, you get 3, 4, 5, even 10 kids, and you've been living together for a very long time, and it happens that, God forbid, that the lady pass on before you pay the dowry, you will still pay that dowry. You will still pay that dowry.
Even in her death.
Yes,
exactly.
you will.
Before you're given the body for burial. And it's a serious issue. It's a serious issue. And negotiations are done. Wazee wanakaa chini, you pay everything.
And all this while the body is just lying somewhere in a morgue, because you have to pay.
So the burial will not proceed?
It cannot?
No.
Until the dowry has been paid?
Yeah.
hata kama itakaa miaka zingine
wacha
waki
ikae.
back and forth.
Yes.
Or they will say, you see, for example, now if you're staying together and you had not paid that bride price, then the way Vic is saying, God forbid the lady dies,
Yes.
and you had kids. You see, now perhaps in the eyes of community society, we like sort of know you as married, but traditionally or even lawfully, we don't know you as married per se. Then you die. If the man does not want to pay that bride price, whether or not you have these kids, then atazikwa basi kwa baba yake. Where the lady was actually born. Yet you've been even living together for 10, 20 years, and we know you with your 5 children or even grown up. You will not.
So what happens in the case where it is now the gentleman who passes on, leaves the lady behind, and he hadn't paid the bride price and all?
Nanazikwa kwa boma yao.
Shemejis will take over. If a man passes on,
Yes,
before
without
paying the
having
bride price,
paid it, yeah.
his brothers will take charge and represent. You know, the brothers will go pay the bride price at a later date, not immediately, at a later date. They'll say, you know, the lady belongs to us, you know, we recognize the lady and she's also ready to stay with us. Sisi kama mashemeji, tumekuja to represent our brother who is already gone. So they'll still go, pay the bride price, and the lady will come back home. If the lady is also okay with that.
So it's that serious.
All right.
So actually, like your brothers will come and pay the dowry on behalf of that man, that you stay together.
Negotiate, do everything, pay everything, everything. Then now you can go.
All right. Now, let's move away from matters, marriages,
And
customary,
divorces.
and divorces, as well as modern day. And there's this particular piece here concerning the possible return of the alcohol. Ta-dan-ta-dan.
Yeah, the drama surrounding that thing,
It's
man.
the festive season.
The possible return. This is pegged on the Traffic Amendment Bill of 2021 by Kasiat Kambet, Anasema, which is currently before the National Assembly. It may soon make its comeback after 3 years of being away. So, if it is passed, the Traffic Amendment Bill of 2021, those found guilty will pay a fine not exceeding 100,000 Kenya shillings or go to jail for not more than 2 years or both. Okay, depending on how high you will blow.
Jen, really, we are living in a world where with this corona pandemic, how do you use the same breathalyzer?
Yes.
2, 3, 4, 5, even 20 people in a night.
Now, those are the details that they haven't really considered. Wanaangalia too.
So you'll use sanitize and put the next come on.
Na kama umeionja sanitizer, by the way, inakuanga bitter.
That thing is
Kama umeionja
Yes.
accidentally, not intentionally.
yeah.
Hey.
Be safe.
So they go on to say that a person who, when driving or attempting to drive under the influence of alcohol, of an alcoholic drink or a drug beyond the prescribed limits, shall be guilty of an offense. And looking if this goes through, but it was made illegal back in 2017, yeah? So it's been going on to 4 years now. He said the use of breathalyzers by police and the national NTSA was outlawed on the basis of the execution rules to establish its use and the inconsistencies therein. So now it's potentially going to make its way back should the members of parliament pass this particular bill. And a person who violates the prescribed speed limits by more than 20 kilometers commits an offense and shall be liable on conviction to imprisonment or to a term not less than 3 months or a fine of not less than 20,000 or both. So depending on whether you are going too fast, exceeding 20 kilometers beyond the limits that have been put there, there's a 3-month jail term or 20K fine or both. And when it comes to the alcohol blow itself, should you go beyond the prescribed points or limits, you will be liable to a prison term of not more than 2 years or a fine not exceeding 100,000 Kenya shillings or both. Especially this festive season.
No.
Because it has to be concluded hopefully today.
But that breathalyzer thing won't happen now because of the health hazards, related to it.
And now experts are saying that we are riding the 5th wave of the pandemic. In as much as the ministry has not yet declared it, actually January will be the peak of this particular phase, this wave that we're in.
The peak because people are traveling a lot.
Omicron.
Yeah.
Omicron.
That's where Doreen says that you have to be careful on the roads.
Yeah, and,
right?
and maybe I can just tie that with also what the government spokesperson said, and maybe just try and understand why they might be reintroducing the alcohol blue. Much as we want to talk about the health hazards, and obviously we understand the importance of trying to exercise caution in respect to that, but this is why just going by the statistics or the data so far in terms of the number of death cases, and saying that motorists in the country are now being urged to exercise caution during this festive season, and this is to avert accidents on the road by complying with the stipulated speed limits. And this is just what he was saying yesterday. This is what he was saying actually yesterday, as he expressed concerns as it emerged that more people have died this year than last year, and this is due to road accidents. Going by the numbers, is that 4,347 people have lost their lives since January of this year to date. So since January up today, and last year, the same time frame, January up until some time of last year, 22nd December, the total number of death cases was at 3,707 people. So going by those numbers, just in the span of 1 year, it has risen by 640 persons. Now, also, when you look at what also the state has been trying to do in terms of reconstruction of most of these roads, in terms of also installation, coming up with different amenities, just in addition to what they're doing when it comes to road expansion, construction, recarpeting, or even installation altogether, is try to avert what we're reading on the papers today. This is in regards to this road accidents. And also this has been largely attributed to mostly private vehicles or personal cars, if you may, as the leading cause of most of these death cases. So again, when you look at the alcohol has been reintroduced, or different just articles citing how we need to take an exercise caution, is just perhaps reduce on this number of death cases, because why would you be losing your life while you're drunk driving? Maybe. So exercise caution on the roads. That is just basically why.
There's a story here. Bungoma headquarters without power over unpaid bill. The story says that Bungoma County offices have been in the dark for the past 1 month.
A whole month?
Yes. Over arrears. Yeah? This is a story. Over arrears owed to Kenya Power. This has paralyzed operations at the county headquarters, with staff who sought anonymity saying that most of them have gradually been opting to stay home. So it is established that the standby generator that the county used at the beginning of the disconnection did not last even for a week, because it also broke down. It's not yet been repaired. The county is said to have 2 years arrears, which include bills for the offices and street lighting. Bungoma Kenya Power manager Eric Langat confirmed the disconnection but did not divulge the exact amount owed. And it doesn't end there. The county has also had its water supply disconnected over non-payment, reaching, when they tried to reach for comments from the Bungoma Public Administration Executive Richard Sambwani, he did not pick up calls, neither did he reply to the text messages. So no water at the county, no power at the county offices. Meanwhile, Kakamega County has surpassed its revenue target by 26 million shillings.
It's not even funny.
It's okay.
It's funny, by the way.
Not even for 1 month.
And yet the counties want more money.
Yes.
Aye. And because we are getting to the festive Christmas season, you need these things. You really do.
So how?
For a month, no power, hakuna stima, and there is no water.
Maji.
Well, pia kuna time City Hall walikuwa wamekatiwa stima over pending electricity bills ya KPLC.
But was it for a whole month?
No, it wasn't.
And even going to the second month now.
Well, the neighboring county made 26 million shillings. It surpassed the revenue collection.
What is that neighboring county doing that they are not?
And the governor is yet to speak about that.
Yeah, they need to benchmark.
Wanahitaji benchmark. But anyway, that is just a sample of what the papers have for us today. You can go ahead and grab whichever best resonates with you. We want to bring this particular segment to a close and move on to the next segment of what we have lined up for you. So do stay with us, but we'll be back.